some monumental piece now, but they got a really good depth piece who plays a different style of game, who is going to fit a role and fill a need for them. So that should be considered a win for Toronto, especially considering the price that you paid to get him is only a 4th-round pick,
right?
In 3 years.
Yeah, I think just to follow up on that, I think what you're talking about, Frankie, is an upgrade. They upgraded their bottom 6 by getting this player. On the flip side, Vancouver, I think we got to give them a break. I think that they believe Evander Kane is an upgrade on
Joshua,
on him.
Which is true. Like if Kane's healthy, that's valid, 100%.
Yeah, so the money isn't that much different. I think it's $1 million. Is it $2 million different? I think Evander's at $5 million maybe. And Dakota's at $3 million. I think Evander can score more goals. I think that he is more of a hard guy to play against consistently over his career than Dakota has been. So I think there's an upgrade there. The problem is you want to have more than one player like that. We talked about that earlier, right? So Connor Garland, I love him, but he's a very small player and he can chirp and get into people's faces, but he's not physically dominating people, even though he's a hard player to play against. So be interesting what comes next, but I do think this is Kane in, Dakota out.
Yeah, that's a good point. And they acquired Kane really for nothing either, because they didn't need any money. That was Edmonton just wanted out of the salary, and they did that. So that has, I guess, has been evident here. Like if you have money to play with, you can take advantage of teams that are looking to get rid of players who have value, but they just know they can't have them anymore based on the numbers crunch, which again is unique to Toronto, because they're never in a position to do this.
No kidding.
Like over the last handful of years, they've never been able to just pluck a guy because he's available. They've never had the money to do it or flexibility to do it. But they've also, again, from a Leaf perspective, filled up a lot of that flexibility. Like Michelli's, what is Michelli making? $4 million or something like that?
Michelli's he's at 3.4.
Okay,
Michelli.
So he's at 3.4. Nicholas was at 3, and Josh was at 3.25. So, between the three of them, you're talking almost 10 million, 9.5.
Yeah,
that's a lot of the 11 million Marner going out. They've effectively filled with those 3 guys.
Well, and if you look at the Leafs on Puckpedia, right, you have 2 guys, one makes 13.2, one makes 11.5. Then it goes down to Nyes at 7, and there's I'm just talking about the forwards. Like Morgan Riley's also a $7 million player, but there's no one in the 6s, there's no one in the 5s, then it goes down to the 4s. So they're still trying to repair this cap structure so that they can make it a little more gradual and it doesn't just fall off a cliff, but it still does. It's just you can't do that in 1 year, even though Marner's gone and now Tavares is off at 11 and he's in the low 4s. It's going to take time for them to really get that nice, even, gradual cap structure where you can have a couple $6 million players on your books.
Right, and those guys have value too, right? Like those are good players. You're not getting them for a 4th-round pick. If you want to get a guy who's making 6 or 7 and is worthy of that contract or can exceed it based on his production. But yeah, I mean, I think from a Leaf perspective, I doubt this is a finished product, but as of now, we know, Nyes, Matthews, Michelli, Domi, Tavares, Nylander are going to play. Joshua's going to play. Waz going to play. Lawton's going to play. And then you got McMahon, Lorentz, Robertson, Yarncroke, Camp, possibly Easton Cowan up front, like battling it out to see how else, the 2 or 3 other spots that are available in the lineup every night. That's for Berube to figure out, I guess, once you get to camp. And then if you acquire anybody else, and maybe they will, maybe they won't. Maybe this is an acceptance from the Leafs that it's not going to happen over the summer. They're going to have to wait until the trade deadline to try to acquire somebody else. And they don't have that many assets. They don't have a ton of picks moving forward either.
I've been thinking about a conversation from the other day about the deep end, and Frank, I'd like to get your insight on that. There's no doubt that the 60 that the Leafs have are good. They're good at what they do. I think they need to add something different. So could we see a hockey trade? And I don't know which one's going out, but a name that pops in my head, and just as an example, doesn't have to, but a Shane Gothenspier, a guy that moves the puck, transports the puck. Like, again, it doesn't have to be him, but that's the vision in my head, Frankie, of what I think they need to pair with someone else. Again, it doesn't have to be that player, but just moving the puck beside someone who's a little bit more stay-at-home to get that puck going up the ice quicker to those forwards.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. And you know what's crazy about that, Struddy, is the Leafs could have had Shane Gostisbehere the last 3 or 4 years. Like, he's been on one-year tickets, right? Like, he was on a one-year ticket with Detroit and then Carolina, and it's like those guys. It felt like Toronto had that already, and they were like, we need the tree trunks. We need the guys that Vegas had because we got to clog things up a little bit more. And now if you look at it, it's like you got Tanev McCabe, good shutdown pair. Carlo O'Reilly. Well, you added the big presence with your puck mover. And then, OEL and Benoit, I look at it and I'm like, OEL's on the third pair. He was on the third pair in Florida when they won. So chances are he's slotted right. So I get what you're saying about, having a guy who's like a slick puck mover, but it feels like they've almost tried to like overcompensate for thinking that way for so long that they just said, we need to try and get the mutants, and it's tough to get those guys. But yeah, like, why not have someone who breaks the puck out pretty well? What about the power play this year? Like, Mitch Marner was running the power play last year. He was playing the point because they didn't think Morgan Rielly could do it, or they didn't think OEL could do it. Marner's gone now. Someone's going to have to run that power play because that's a strength of the team. And so, where does that go to now? Who gets that positioning?
It's a good question. And again, we don't have the answer in the middle of July, but you're right. They were doing, the 5-forward power play into the playoffs last year. They were committed to that. So, I don't picture that happening again. I think they'll go with Marner gone. They're going to go back to a conventional 4-1. Maybe Rielly gets another opportunity there. I think that would benefit him. Again, trying to get some cookies on the power play and feel like you're contributing a little bit more in areas where you're comfortable. But that's why I think it's an unfinished product. Maybe we're looking at the forwards, and it could possibly be Tree Living trying to find a puck-moving defenseman or two. All right, we'll come back with our rankings. I'll have my rankings. You guys tell me where you stand on that. Canadian teams 1 through 7. Dave Naylor on the new week in the CFL starting up. His take on, obviously, Chad Kelly's return. And what's up with your Elks, man? They stink, Strutty. The Elks are brutal out there in Edmonton. Them and the Argos both have 2 points. It's not going well. So we'll get you an update on that as well from the Nail Gun as we get closer to that in about 20 minutes. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.